So you all know pretty much how to cook, which is exciting. Today, we're gonna make something that's really, I love making this at home, and everyone that I've ever shown this to have never bought Alfredo sauce in a jar or in a can from the grocery store ever. And I'm just excited for y'all to learn how to do this because everybody loves an Alfredo sauce, but for some reason we're intimidated by it because the way the name sounds, it sounds fancy, but it's really simple. And the style or what ingredients I'm going to be putting in is just basically the things I had in the fridge, such as leftover grilled chicken. It was grilled chicken legs that we had grilled, and I just decided to just like tear it off the bone, and we're going to pop it into the pasta. But this dish was shown to me by the very first chef I ever worked for. It was an Italian restaurant, small itty bitty 45-seat restaurant, husband and wife, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And this dish he put on the menu because he was working as a line cook in another restaurant, and it was his turn to make family meal. And family meal, for those that may not have ever worked in restaurants or restaurants that serve family meal to the staff, it's probably one of the better meals that you'll ever experience in your life because you have all these cooks come together. We have like a plethora of ingredients in the restaurant that we can use from. Sometimes it's limited depending on the cost. And we're competitive human beings. So you just have us all, kind of challenging each other to step up and raise the bar and try to put out our best family meal. And this is what he came up with. And the very first time that I tried it, when I was interviewing for the position, he put it down in front of me. He's like, okay, and this is our Alfredo. It has it's an Alfredo sauce. It has zucchini. I'm like, hey, cool. And then he goes, it has dried cranberries. And I didn't make a face. I was like, dried cranberries, interesting. As soon as I had it, I don't cook Alfredo without dried cranberries ever. It's amazing, and I can't wait for you to see this, how we do it, and possibly for you to make it at home one day. Okay, so we're just gonna go over the ingredients here, and just so you know what all goes into it. So this is just a shallot. I remember for those that have been here since episode 1, the difference between a home cook and a chef is basically a shallot. A lot of professional kitchens use shallots. I use all kinds of onions in our household. Shallots are just have a little more flavor. They're smaller, more just like a strong flavor of onion. But at the same time it's delicate. Okay, we're gonna have some shallots, some minced garlic, friends. Just went ahead and minced it up. Okay, crushed red peppers. This is the heat, and we add a little heat to our cooking just to bring all the flavors together. Okay, it helps marry everything together by adding a little bit of heat to your dishes. Okay, dried cranberries, as I said, nothing special. We don't have to bloom them in water or anything. We're just going to keep them dry. Okay, next up we have zucchini. Just went ahead and cut it. I typically still use the parts with seeds. But if you come across some zucchini, and I see it more when we have zucchini from local farmers in town, the seeds in zucchini tends to become a little bigger. You want to go ahead and cut that out. Just like cucumbers, if the seeds are really big, it just has a lot of moisture and water in it, and it just doesn't taste good. And so you can just go ahead and cut that out. But this zucchini, actually, the seeds are very small, so I left it in. Okay, right here we have not wine, that I'm gonna deglaze the pan with. And basically deglazing is when you're cooking, you're sauteing, and your shallots, garlic, zucchini are starting to get brown in the pan. That is called fond, and that is spelled F-O-N-D. And you take typically wine, but we didn't have any wine at home, and since my wife works for a brewery, we have beer. And it is actually an expired beer, so we're just going to use it for cooking purposes. And once you hit the hot pan with your wine, beer, apple juice, orange juice, beef stock, chicken stock, any kind of liquid water even, it helps get all of the fond and all that flavor off of the pan, and it incorporates into your dish. Okay, that is called deglazing, and use any kind of liquid you want. Heavy whipping cream we have here. This is what's gonna make our sauce, okay? So I know there's some recipes out there where it calls for a roux for an Alfredo. First off, I don't like using a roux when you're cooking something so quickly, because basically a roux is a flour and a fat, typically butter. And you melt your butter, add your flour, you stir it, it becomes your thickener. But the thing is with flour, if you were to take a pinch of flour and put it in your mouth, it just doesn't taste good because you have to allow it time to cook out. And with a fast dish like this, it's not going to give you enough time to cook out the flour flavor. It's still going to taste raw, and it's going to incorporate into your dish. So I personally don't like using a roux for Alfredo, plus I'm gluten-free, so I stay away from that. So heavy cream is where you're going to get your thickness, and it's going to come together with your cheese. This is the grilled chicken that we had. Y'all, was just chicken legs, like I said, and I just shredded it off the bone, and this is what we're going to be using, okay? Some pasta here that I have already cooked. It's gluten-free. You can use whatever pasta you want. And then we have cheese. So typically for an Alfredo, you want to use something that is hearty, creamy, and a little funky for Italian cheeses. So this is actually a Trader Joe's four mix, and I use it for everything. I think it's great. It has Parmesan, Asiago, Provolone, and Pecorino. I'm not sure what the fourth one is. But in the restaurant I worked at, we use Parmesan and Asiago. And the Asiago is the creamier between the two, so it will add that creamy Alfredo texture that we're looking for. Okay, and lastly, we have some parsley, and I just went ahead and minced that up, and we're just going to use this as our garnish. All right, friends, now let's go to the heat. I have the pan preheating right now. I'm just going to turn it up. Okay, I'm going to start with some oil in here. I would say we can use about 2 tablespoons of oil. That should be ample. All right, bring my shallots and garlic over here. This is equivalent to 1 small shallot that I'm putting in the pan. And this is about 3 garlic cloves. All right, friends, like I said, the heat brings everything together. I would say use about a pinch of crushed red peppers, a little bit of salt. Okay, you see the pan's burning. Sorry, not the pan, the ginger and the shallots are starting to brown. Instead of using a spatula, I just like to shake around the pan. You can use a spatula if you want. This is fresh black pepper. Okay, go ahead and just stir that around. It's pretty aromatic right now. Wish you guys could smell it. I'm just gonna turn my heat down just a touch, and it looks like the pan just needs a touch more oil. Sweet. So right now we're just making sure that we're getting a little bit of color. It may have gone a little too far with the shallots, but that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and add the zucchini. The cranberries. It's gonna add, the cranberries add a nice sweetness to it, y'all. Because everything else in here can be a little tart with your garlic, your shallots, and the zucchini. Okay, as you can see, we have some fond here. This is the brown goodness right here at the bottom. That's where all of our flavor is, okay? So I'm gonna deglaze right now and lift all of that goodness up into the dish. When you're deglazing though, friends, okay, don't have the pan still on the heat. You want to pull it away, because if you pour alcohol to heat, it can explode or cause a house fire. So I will go ahead and just pull it off the heat and pour your liquid. Since beer's carbonated, y'all, you're gonna want to go ahead and slowly drizzle it in, because you can see it bubbled up and you don't want it to overflow, okay? So at this point, that's probably about 1/4 of a cup or a little less of beer, okay? And let that come up to a bubble, and all we're doing is cooking out the alcohol right now, okay? And as you can see, we got all that goodness, all that fond off of the pan. And that's what's translating into this brown color right here. That's where all that flavor is gonna be, okay? So as it's bubbling up, you want large bubbles. This is what we're looking for, because that means it's cooking the alcohol out. And when we cook with alcohol, Yeah, it's alcohol. Some of us like to have an alcoholic beverage. We like that flavor of alcohol when we're drinking it. But in food, typically you don't want to taste the alcohol, okay? So I'm just gonna let this reduce down to probably like halfway, where there's a little bit of liquid left, but not too liquidy where your sauce becomes soupy and too thin, okay? We want Alfredo to be nice and thick to coat your noodles, etc. We have fusilli today. Like I said, it's gluten-free, so there's not a lot of options for gluten-free pastas. But typically Alfredo we serve with a fettuccine because it just sticks to the long, thick, fat noodles. I sometimes like eating Alfredo with rigatoni because I like that thick pasta tube-like. And yeah, I wouldn't recommend like angel hair or anything. Okay, so we're gonna reduce down. I'm gonna go ahead and add the heavy cream at this point. Actually, I lied. I'm gonna add some chicken right now, just so we can heat it up a little more, okay? Sweet. Now, we're gonna add the heavy whipping cream, okay? I don't really measure. I go 2 times around the world. Around the world is around the saute pan. And that's probably equivalent right there, friends, to a little over a quarter of a cup, okay? So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna bring this up to a boil, and you're gonna see the heavy cream. See, starting to boil here, small bubbles, y'all. Okay, it's gonna start, when it starts thickening, the bubbles are gonna become really big, and that's when you know that your sauce is actually thickening and expanding in the pan with the heat. You can hear it. See right here, friends, the bubbles are slightly getting bigger. That's what we're looking for. This is called reducing. So the heavy cream with the beer that we deglaze the pan with is starting to reduce and come together. Okay, that's what we're looking for. I wouldn't be too worried right now. It's on high. I'm gonna actually turn it down to about 4 because I'm about to add the cheese, and I don't want the cheese to scorch and burn in the pan. Okay. So at this point, we start seeing your cream the bubbles starting to become bigger and more. You're gonna want to add your cheese right now, okay? You could, add as much cheese you want, or as little. For our vegan friends, you know what? I've done this for family meal before with cauliflower puree. So I roasted some cauliflower, pureed it in a blender, and I added nutritional yeast. And believe it or not, it turned out really good. And it tastes like Alfredo because there wasn't much fat, but it actually tasted really good. And the vegans that were eating it were really impressed and enjoyed it. All right, so as you see, added the cooked pasta. Should we get a little stir? You can get a little closer. I want to see if the friends at home can see like the melty cheesiness. I can see myself here, the strands. So at this point, I'm going to turn off the heat, and I'm just going to mix it all together. You see the strands of the cheese, all that goodness melting together? There we go. It's all incorporated. Okay. All right, we're gonna go ahead and plate this, turn off the heat. We'll come over here. Our nice East Fork pottery bowl. Look at that stringy cheesiness. All right, hold please. We're gonna garnish next up. All right, so I'm gonna add a little more cheese to the top because why not? It's an Alfredo. And we're gonna top it off with some parsley. And there we have it. Alfredo sauce, homemade. Any questions right now?
That looks amazing, first of all. I have a
Thank you.
question about the deglazing process. So
Okay.
I've never heard of that. Or personally done it. So I'm just curious about the type of liquid that you include, like if it's a beer or a wine, or you said apple juice or anything like that. The like flavor of the item that you use to deglaze, how does that interact with the meal itself? Like if you use, I don't know, if you use an IPA or a lager or something like, a different kind of beer, are there any impacts on the actual like flavor of the meal?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you want to kind of pick a liquid that is going to translate well in the dish, right? So this one particularly, I wouldn't have used orange juice, but I may have used apple juice because there are already cranberries in there, and apple in this dish can stand up to apple juice because it's pretty rich. And when I've done braising meats and everything, you want some kind of liquid. I've used really, really dark beers like an IPA or stouts or porters or red wine. So you can pretty much use almost any kind of liquid you want, but just think whatever you have, is it gonna blend well and marry with the flavors that you're looking for? Yeah, and you could also use any kind of stock too, vegetable stock, beef stock, chicken as well. It doesn't always have to be alcohol.
This beer that she used is a sour saison. It's an old brand that we used to make that we don't anymore. And I love them, so I was hoarding them for a little bit, which didn't work out in my favor. But it's still got that really funky flavor that'll complement the cheese.
Yep.
Cool. Great, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think there was maybe some questions from other folks, maybe from Mary.
Okay, yeah, I'll go. So more questions about the alcohol. You said, and correct me if I'm wrong, the alcohol serves as something and then it should evaporate. So what's the point of the alcohol in the recipe again?
So basically, alcohol is the liquid that we're using, right? So it could be any kind of liquid. But if you're going to use an alcohol, you want the alcohol flavor to evaporate. So even though the alcohol is evaporating, the flavor of the sour saison is still going to be in the dish. It's just actual alcohol content that's gonna be cooking, that will cook out.
Okay, so yeah. Is Alfredo considered a roux? R-U-E, a roux?
So there are some. So if you were to Google Alfredo recipe, there's gonna be a good bit that calls for a roux, and a roux is 2 ingredients. It's a thickener. It is typically butter or some kind of fat like olive oil, and it's all-purpose flour, and that is what a lot of people use as their thickener. So if you're making homemade Alfredo, that's for a roux. If you're making a gumbo or even macaroni and cheese homemade, it's always gonna call for some kind of thickening, and 80% of the time it's going to be a roux based. But since I like to keep it gluten free, I just go ahead and omit that and just use heavy cream and really fatty cheese.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. And if you don't trust that the heavy cream will do the work with the cheese, and you're gluten free, or you don't have flour, you have to have cornstarch, you can also use cornstarch as your thickening process as well.
Cool. Questions? Any other questions?
One more. So how long will it keep after you cook it if you're having leftovers?
That's a good question. It depends. If you could probably, like, if I made that whole batch, but I'm guaranteed that we're probably gonna eat it. It'll probably last in your fridge for maybe 2 days without it stiffening up and the pasta kind of seizing and sucking out all the moisture of the cheese. But if you're finding that you need to heat it up, if you have a microwave, the microwave will help loosen it up a little. But if you don't have a microwave and you reheat your food on the stove top, what I advise you to do is add a tablespoon of water into your pan with the pasta that you're trying to heat up, and that water will help loosen everything up to become creamy again. I can definitely post it on my Instagram page, which is Chong, JCHONG_eats, EATS. And I'll post the ingredients and how to make it, and I'll attach the picture to it. But I could quickly tell you, we have about 5 minutes left. I can quickly tell you what it is. So pasta, your cheese blend, so Parmesan, Asiago are the two, but if you have a Trader Joe's around you like them, I'll go get the 4 blend cheese, which is provolone, Asiago, Parmesan, and I think the last one is Pecorino, I'm not quite sure. Salt, black pepper, crushed red peppers, garlic, shallots, and a deglaze of some sort, some kind of liquid, zucchini and cranberries. But if you go to my page, I'll go ahead and post that today, and I'll write down the recipe for y'all.
Cool. Well, we have a few minutes left. Anything else anyone would like to share? If not, I just want to give a big thanks to Jay, a big thanks to Danielle for being the camera person. I feel like find someone, a partner for yourself who will
Yes!
be as good of a camera person as Danielle, and you're gonna have it made. So
Exactly.
Yeah. But we just like super appreciate you, Jay. We super appreciate everything you're doing. And this is the fourth Jay Chong Eats on the Front Porch, and we are really grateful for it. It's become a staple of our quarantine, and we're super grateful for you.
Yeah, I'm grateful for y'all too, and what CSE has done, especially during this quarantine. Y'all are rocking it. So I appreciate what you do for our community, and just keep doing it for us. Thank you. I appreciate y'all. Thanks, everyone. Happy Friday.
Thank you so much. Happy Friday, everyone, and have a great weekend.
Bye.
We'll see you
Peace.
soon.